All right, we are live. So welcome to the Minvo Procast. I am your host, Mark Ronick, and today joining me is an old friend of mine, Travis Brown. Travis and I got to know each other a couple of years ago. We spent some time at Podfest, or was that Podcast Movement? I can't remember which one. It might have been Movement.
It was the Movement. It was Nashville.
Nashville. That's right. Yeah, and we got to know each other there. We've done work together. We've collaborated. We've done all the things. And since then, Travis has blown up on social media. When we started our friendship, you probably had on Instagram probably around 5, 6, 7,000 followers, which is nothing to sneeze at. But within like 90 days, you got like 100,000 followers. I think it was like 90,000 more followers in like 6 weeks. So we're going to dig into that too. But Travis, hello. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. You didn't think I was going to be here. Mark did an amazing job of coddling me and making sure that I was going to be here. But I was looking forward to it. I woke up this morning and I'm like, I get to hang out with Ronick today, and this is going to be awesome. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here. I mean, I've told people this before, and I don't know that I've said it on this show, but Travis is really the one that got me comfortable using social media. I was forcing Instagram, trying to figure it out, and I had been watching Travis for a long time, seeing him do his thing. And at the time, your thing were more of the carousels than the reels, because reels really wasn't a thing yet at that time. And I saw what you were doing, and I ended up connecting with you and telling you that you used to bother the S out of me when I would see your stuff. And I know now it's because I was just impressed and wanting to put out similar or high quality content like yours. And I reached out to you, and you actually were very kind about it. And that's how that whole journey began. So thanks again for that.
You could do better, right? You knew in your heart you could do better than me. And you're like, this guy, I could do better than that. And then we became friends, and you've blossomed, and you are like, you have a Swiss Army knife of tools for leadership, content creation, live events, your company growing. You're helping all these people, grow their businesses. So, as we meet people, my favorite part is like seeing this massive potential in somebody and then standing back and watching it unfold. So it's been amazing watching all the things that you've built, not just for yourself. I think it's more about the community and the things that you do for other people, which is really impressive to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, community is a big one. I think really that's where it all starts. If anybody's looking to grow something like a podcast or a social media account, I think having community in mind is a big piece. And we'll see if you agree too. But I want people to get to know you a little bit more before we dig into that. And you initially, at least in my world, you initially made a name for yourself as a podcast professional and the creator of Poddex, which I'll ask you to share a little bit about Poddex too. What inspired your shift, though, to go all in on social media? And how was that transition, or how did it shape your current approach to the way you create content?
Yeah, so I definitely came in with the idea that, as I have a podcast editing agency. That was like my expertise, like what I had spent a lot of time learning. And so I was like, okay, I'm helping my clients, but how can I help other people, get what they want? Because I do believe that there's space for everybody. So I made a big push at the podcasting content, and I was a carousel creator and I loved carousels. And then Reels came out, and I literally said, I'm never doing that. This is stupid. I don't want to do this. I'm a podcast guy. I'm an audio guy. I don't want to make videos, right? So never say never, because now it's one of my favorite things to do. And I grinded and grinded and grinded to get to 10,000 followers based on this podcast expertise content in the podcasting community. And at one point, I guess the realization I had was that I have other interests and skills, but more importantly, the main questions that podcasters had for me were not really how to start or what's the best hosting company, but rather how to make money or get more downloads, right? Mm-hmm. Those were the biggest questions. So it came down to like sales and marketing. And so I realized at some point that in order to reach millions of people, I needed to talk about big enough stuff to be interesting to millions of people. So it was a very tough decision because I've been spending 2 years talking about podcasting, and then I just kind of switched. So it was kind of like putting on someone else's clothes and like just feeling very awkward. But I knew that I had to take a chance. So, if you could take anything away from this, no matter what industry you're in, if you can like tap into the next level or really listen to what people are really asking. So the podcast is a vessel to sales, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I actually did it backwards. I started testing marketing first, which I epically failed at. Like nobody wanted to hear about marketing from me and Instagram marketing. And then I went to money making, and that's when my account exploded because everybody, podcasters, stay-at-home moms, grandmas, grandpas, teenagers, everybody wants to like make money. And at the time, like side hustling was really like a big deal. Yeah. Where now it's all like, OnlyFans, foot videos, but whatever.
How are those going for you, Travis? Are you doing well with those?
Oh, I wish, I just, talk about a great life, just taking pictures of your feet, but I'm keeping my feet to myself at this point.
Fair.
And so it was this really awkward shift. And I did feel at the time that I had like sort of like not turned my back on the podcasting community, but there was like, I felt like there was a betrayal internally, but I knew that like I needed to test this because if it took me 2 years to get to 10K talking about podcasting, would it be another 2 years before I was like able to reach 20 or 50K? And so I really wanted to make an impact. And I know, there's two reasons to do this stuff. There's income and there's impact. And like, I do really like to help people. I am from my childhood trauma, I'm a people pleaser. Like it's what I like to do. I really I have everything I need. You can see my room is stuffed with all of my toys. Like I have everything I want. The next logical step for a leader or somebody who's helpful is to help other people get what they want, which is what you do really well. And it's what I'm trying to do, is to help other people, get a piece of the action. And so the key lesson here is that if you are in a niche, that we want to consider going one level up and figuring out what that is that they're really after. So an example of this is like, if you're in marketing, the only reason to market something is to make a sale. We don't just market things for fun. We market them to make a sale. So then you would need to kind of level up and talk about sales more, because that's the other side of the coin. And so it was a big lesson. It was a big lesson for me in sort of this reverse engineering attention and broadening out in the things that, I'm doing on a regular basis with my students and just in my daily life. And once you sort of figure out that if you talk about things that a million people care about, you have a much higher probability of getting exposed to new people. And then, like you hated me when you first saw me. And I appreciate that, because I want people to either resonate or not resonate with me, and use that as a filtration system to keep people away who are just like that. But what you'll realize is that you're exposing yourself to non-followers, new leads, new people, which grows your presence, right? Which grows your imprint, which grows your personal brand. And that was something that really, I don't think it was my fault or anyone else's fault who's in a niche. We were kind of told, you need to have a niche. You need to be like down here. And in 2024, you actually need to be up here if you want to reach everybody.
Okay. So do you know, I think you know this person. Do you know Heather Parody?
Of course.
Okay. Because I've had Heather on this show and on my other podcast as well, and love what she does. Super creative, and she just really nails it with her content. And one of the conversations she and I had was about those viral videos, putting out those videos that, appeals to the masses or appeals to a lot more people than you're usually targeting. And one of the things she was saying is that it didn't do anything for her other than get her a lot of views, initially a bunch of followers, but then they started to kind of fade away because the content she was actually making was no interest to them. So what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Heather started off and she was doing, I think, more comedic videos. And so they're like the sort of like, I call them like penny content, where it's like, it's awesome, it's funny, but there really isn't a reason to go to the next level with them. And so she had a tremendous amount of success with this sort of like humor-based content. And that's great. And it probably didn't bring her leads for her business. Where if you fast forward, she's gone through a transformation where she's now a lot more focused on storytelling and the things that work from what I would call an emotional standpoint. So her transition is perfect because she realized that while I'm getting all these views with these like trends and some of the funny stuff, it is not bringing me quality leads. And so that is the perfect example. So now she shifted, and I don't know where she's at, but she's probably in the 50s or hundreds of thousands of people, because those people are interested on a different level of where Heather can take them as far as growing their personal brand, telling stories, using that in podcasts, using that in their social media content. And by doing that, she might not be going viral every day like she would with a comedic video, but she is getting more reach than ever. And she's attracting the kind of people that would be interested in one of her offers, one of her products, one of her coaching programs. And that's the shift. So I don't ever promote doing trends or using trending audio or hashtags or 1-second reels or anything that has to do with the buttons on any of the social media platforms. If you want to do that stuff because it's fun, that's great, but it is not going to build you an audience or leads for your business. So this is the way I like to look at it. And this will be a shift for everybody, right? A follower is actually a warm lead. Okay. A follower is actually a warm lead. And I know people are like, oh, it's gross. I don't need followers. I don't want, it's gross. It's really not. It is an indication of intent. So they've seen something they like, and they're saying, I want to spend time with Mark Ronick every day for about a minute, right? That's right? And that's a lead, okay?
Were you having a conversation with my wife? I think that was something I overheard her saying recently.
Well, I do have cameras and microphones set up all around your house, so I might have heard that, right? So we need to shift the thought process of because I do talk to a lot of people like, I don't care about followers. And I'm like, well, do you care about leads? And they're like, well, of course I care about leads. And I'm like, well, this is a show of intent. So if we would run an ad and somebody clicked on that ad, that is a warm lead. It is showing intent, right? So I want you to focus on thinking about your followers as leads, and not all of your followers will buy from you, right? It's just not how it works, okay? But a percentage of them will, if you can, work with them. So going back to Heather, the shift for her, and the reason that this really worked is because we're actually right now in a trust recession, okay? We're in a trust recession. So I'm guessing if you're watching this, chances are you may have bought something that sucked, a course, a coaching program. You might have even gotten taken for 10 grand from one of these like Insta gurus for these big promises of growing your business or whatever. So everybody's in some capacity bought something that sucked and been burned, right?
Yeah, sure.
We have an election. We're in an election cycle. Nobody trusts the government after COVID. I'm not going to go on any crazy conspiracy theory rants, but it's weird times right now.
Agreed.
And with all the content people are putting out of I made $10,000 by doing this and I made $50,000 by doing this, people just don't believe anything. Okay. So with that, the way to overcome that is to create two things. One, an emotional connection. So I think what Heather's done, and I love her as an example, is that she's basically breaking down the psychology of why things work, and she's using emotion to create trust. So as we don't believe people, the way that we will believe them is A, seeing them doing what they say they're doing, and B, some type of emotional attachment. So let's talk about emotional attachment first, right? Sharing things, vulnerabilities, failures. I mean, I just celebrated being 5 years sober, and I specifically posted that online, A, to celebrate and document my legacy of being, a human being again. But it is an emotional thing to quit drinking. And if you have thought about quitting drinking, or if you struggled with addiction like I have, there's an emotional connection there that cannot be brought in through some dancing, right? It's like, oh, this dude had a problem too, and I maybe I like him, wow, that makes me feel better about myself. There's an emotional connection. So emotion is one. Two, I do think in this trust recession that even if I show you a screenshot of my $1 million membership, you still don't believe me. So I need to show you what I'm doing so that you have the context that I'm actually doing what I say I'm doing. So what you're going to see is a lot of storytelling content. So storytelling content is where you set out to do something, whether you do it or not, doesn't matter. But the point of the matter is we're watching you do something, which is more A, realistic, B, believable, and 3, C, has an opportunity to have that emotion ingredient. But this build in public model is becoming very popular because of the trust people don't have in social media. So the way that you can use this is by saying, okay, there's probably a few different formats that you could use. One is just setting a challenge for yourself. So I have a couple of series that I ran where it's like, I'm going to go from $0 to $1,000. Okay. $0 to $1,000. Now, the challenge I set for myself was to take nothing and turn it into $1,000, which I think works on a couple different levels. One, people want to make money. Two, they want to see somebody fail. Like we do like to see people fail. And 3, I picked $1,000 because I actually felt like it was something that other people could recreate and it didn't feel too far away. So could I have done it to 10,000? Yes. Would it have been interesting? Yes. But I do think that people are like, I can't do that, but I could make $1,000, right?
Yeah.
So set challenges for yourself, set goals, set big statements, I'm trying to get 5 new clients today. And here's exactly what I'm going to do is a lot different proposition than saying, if you want more clients, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this. I do think people are somewhat, from a consumption standpoint, tutorialed out. Like we just can't have another guy go do this thing. But if we
to do this.
Exactly. And that content is a great format and served its purpose. I do think we're more able to invest in a person emotionally and trust-wise if we see them doing something and then we resonate with that on a different level. So if I go, hey, I'm going to try to make $1,000, I'm going to go from $0 to $1,000. It is important for me in that storyline to not just share the highlight reel of all the good things that happen, but rather to include some of the obstacles and failures so that A, it's more realistic, and B, it's a more interesting story. Because in storytelling, the basis of this is that you have a character who is moved by an emotion to do something. So let's say it's somebody who wants to lose weight. Okay. Then they run into this obstacle. I can't lose weight because I'm addicted to Cheetos or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
They have this big problem. And then they meet a guide, and that guide helps them overcome that obstacle. Okay. So the obstacle is a character, the character who wants to overcome the obstacle is a character, and the guide is a character. Now, you don't need 3 different people to make that video happen. What you need is for the most part, you are probably all those characters. So I want to quit drinking in 90 days. Okay. So I'm the character who's moved by an emotion. Addiction is the obstacle. Okay. Now the guide could be anything. It could be an app that I'm using to get therapy. It could be meetings. It could be some type of like sensory deprivation. Right. And when I combine those things, the best story isn't that I'm just like, yep, I just quit drinking. It was super easy and it's over. The best story is I started out and it was like feeling really good on day 1, but then day 2, I had all these sugar cravings and I ate 20 Snickers bars. And then I felt more hungover than I did when I was drinking. But then I decided I was going to keep going. And so this up and down sort of dynamics are what create that emotional investment and that trust investment. And so I think it's the biggest opportunity for people is to go out there, set goals, set themselves challenges, tell people what they're doing. For instance, I just talked to a lady and I said, you're a filmmaker. Who's your dream client? She's like, all I want to do is work with Marriott hotels. And I told her, Stop waiting to work with Marriott and tell the world you want to work with Marriott and show them what you're going to do to get it. And then we'll have this investment on a deeper level with you that A, we want to know if you're going to do it. B, we're going to come back every day to see what's happened. And C, we're emotionally invested in you as a character. And now we have this really great movement and community and things happening for your account. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
There was just one more thing on that. There was a girl, she's Nicole the intern. You can look her up. She worked for a energy drink company, and she started an account and said, this is day one of proving that smashing this can is a better marketing campaign than his entire marketing budget. And so basically every day she went online and she smashed this drink can in different ways. She grew 500,000 followers in like a month because people were like, yeah, I want to stick it to the man. I'm going to follow her to show them that the intern is smarter than the CEO. And then people started smashing cans and sending in the videos. And then she started sharing that the boss was like, oh, this is working. And it was a really wild ride in something that is as stupid as an energy drink. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
That's so cool. And I'm curious, I want to go back to you mentioned how carousels was your thing originally, and you used to do such an amazing job with those. And now you're all in on the reels and short form content. But I'm curious, do those formulas that you just described, those storytelling formulas for reels, do they work well with other types of social media posts? Okay.
It works well with everything. So, if you're going to do a carousel, yes, you're telling a story through a number of slides, right? I always thought of carousels. This was the way I looked at carousels. Were not that they were like this infographic product. They were like kids' books where like, it's 10 pages and you go through this little thing. Jack and Jill went up the hill and Jack fell down. There's your problem, right? Like, I looked at it as how can I children's bookify information in 10 slides? And that really helped me to go, oh, I don't need to jam all the information into it. I can make it fun. And I'm telling a story. Storytelling also plays into your podcast, right? If you open up a podcast with something that is like, I tried to lose 10 pounds in a week, and here's what happened. Right? Now we have the beginning of the story, a character, location, action, right? And we can unfold that. You will get people listening all the way through that podcast. If it's a video, same thing. If it is a YouTube video, longer form content, it works. If it's an email, right? Open up your email with like the proposition of the story. Last week, my dog, I don't know, caught a squirrel, and you'll never guess what we named it. Okay, wait, you named the squirrel, right? So the story is that my dog catches this squirrel, and instead of like letting him kill it, maybe I keep it and now it's my pet, right? I don't know what the story is, but using story-based content is A, something that we've done for 100,000 years as human beings. B, it's a lot different proposition than just saying like, here's what you need to do. You got to do this and download this. I just think that people are sort of exhausted from being told what to do, and they're much more likely to invest in a character or a person based on that internal reflection of what's actually happening inside.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And now I want to shift gears for a second, because there was something you mentioned earlier when you were sharing, and I don't want to breeze by it because I think it's significant. And yeah, maybe it doesn't have any direct correlation to social media, but I still think it's important to touch on. I know last month you celebrated your birthday, and I know that on your birthday, it's also a celebration of your sobriety, which, like I said, you mentioned a little while ago. And I think it's important to shine a light on that for a second and share with the audience really the motivation for you behind taking that step and how it's impacted everything else now for you, whether it's your social media, your business, your life, whatever that is. How has it impacted you making that move?
Yeah, so I appreciate the opportunity. Like, yes, I'm 5 years sober. The main driver of that was my kids. So, at one point in time when my kids were very young, we were at a restaurant and the people brought out the food, and the waitress knocked over my soda, and my daughter yelled out, "Oh, Daddy, your beer." And the reason that she said that was because when I would be at home, I'd be drinking my beer and be like, "Don't knock over my beer. Watch out for my beer," right? I had programmed them to think knocking over Daddy's beer, which is most important to him, is a bad thing. And in that moment, I realized, and I had wanted to quit drinking for a long time, but there's a momentum to addiction, right? And it was just like, that was it. I was like, I don't want them to think about me like that. I don't want them to know I drink. I don't want them to remember that I drink. I don't ever want them to say the word beer. And so that was the defining moment. But this is how, if you don't think you're addicted to anything, I don't care if it's drinking or if it's porn or if it's food or if it's working out. This is the key here. This is what changed my life, is that addiction doesn't go away. Okay. It doesn't matter if you're addicted to alcohol or drugs or drama or, good things or bad things. So the idea here is to focus on yourself and go, okay, what am I spending too much of my energy on? All right. So for me, it was like drinking. Drinking was the thing. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to stop doing that. But I need to replace that because the addiction won't go away. It will just spill over into something else, right? And like you can see, the addiction has all kinds of different forms. Like my personality flaw and my gift is that whatever I'm doing, I am 100% in. Yeah. So if I want to learn how to screen print t-shirts, you bet your ass I've got screens and a emulsion and all the stuff. Like, look at this room, right? This is addiction right here. This is addiction to my personality. So addiction shows itself in different ways. The key for you to harness that addiction and use it for good is to replace it with something good. So when I did quit drinking, my business started growing, my social media started growing because I was using all that energy towards that.
Was that a conscious decision?
No, it was yes and no. I did want to work really hard at it, but I just noticed that, like, my idle hands, like if I wasn't going to sit on the couch and have a beer and watch TV, that I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. Well, I started pouring myself into this because I was excited about it. And I will say I did turn it into a new addiction, right? Growing this account, working really hard, getting more sales, but it was a better addiction, right? So that addiction has not left me, right? And it will never leave me. And, I think, it's easy to get addicted to your phone, and it's easy to get addicted to, even just consuming content based on the way that the slot machine is all rolled out. So if you notice that you're spending an exorbitant amount of time doing something that isn't getting you closer to where you want to be, I would challenge you to look at that as something that you would want to quit and replace with the activities that are going to get you closer to where you want to go. So if that's podcasting, if that's business, if that's fitness, if that's whatever it is, be aware of something you're doing that in your heart and in your gut isn't helping you, and then start using that energy, because I do think addiction is actually a superpower, because you have this thing inside of you that you can't turn off. Just focus that light and that energy on something that you really want. And the way that I did it was, I was like, when I quit drinking, I said, I'm going to try it for 30 days and see how I feel. And at the end of 30 days, I felt good. And I was like, I'll do it for another 30 days. And at the end of that 30 days, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to do this for a year. Then I did it for a year. And I said, everything is better for me. I'm doing the things I want. I'm getting closer to the things I want. And if I add that back in at this moment, I do believe that my energy will shift back to that. And so I'm going to stop that. So it was a really great decision for me. There are lots of people who can handle alcohol and have one drink. But again, I go all the way. So if we're drinking, we are drinking, right? If we're podcasting, we are podcasting. If we're doing music, we're doing music. So I'm black and white, and that's part of my personality. So I would challenge everybody to kind of look at their activities and go, I'm watching a lot of Netflix, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with watching Netflix, but you can't complain that your podcast isn't growing or your business isn't growing. You need to say, this is somewhat of an addictive personality element. let me replace that with something better. And I think that you'll see, even if it's just a small thing like Netflix, how much more and how further you'll go.
Yeah. And thank you for digging into that, because I don't even know that we've talked a lot about that at length before, about your whole journey there. So thank you for indulging and sharing that. I think it's so important, especially these days, because I know as a content creator myself, it is easy to get addicted to social media, right? Like
Absolutely.
it's something that now I am working on, putting that phone down and finding something else to replace, because I get so engulfed in it, really at first, just because like I'm studying it, right? Like in some ways it's productive, because I'm looking at that video saying, that was an interesting choice. It got a lot of views. How could I apply something like that strategy to what I'm doing? Right. But then it gets just endless and addictive.
What you just said is an absolute golden nugget for anybody out there. And I want to share something with you that will allow you to do that without getting sucked in. So one of the key things that people need to learn is that all topics are not equal. Okay. So I could wake up today and make 2 different videos. I could make a video about a typewriter, or I could make a video about ChatGPT. Which one is going to get more views?
I would guess the ChatGPT one.
Right. Because all topics are not equal, and there's more interest and attention around ChatGPT than a typewriter. Now, both are valuable. I would say being able to type on a typewriter is very valuable, and that's where people get mixed up with value versus attention, okay? So the way to do this is, you can't swim upstream. You should look at social media, but you should do it in a way where you split your brain in half, and you go, I'm going to look at social media right now, and I'm going to do it for fun. So I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes, and I'm just going to doom scroll and have a good time and get my dopamine. And when the timer goes off, I will stop. And that way you still get that consumption, and you can have some fun with it, because social media is fun. The internet is undefeated, right? It is amazing, right? So you need to have that. But when it comes time to doing what you just described, which is what we call research, to prove that the things that you want to talk about have attention, you want to do it in a different way. And the way that you'll be doing it is with the sound off, okay? Because you don't want to get sucked in. Like, the more content you watch is the less content you make. So you don't want to watch content. You want to look through the content. So you will be looking at the content strategically by searching keywords or just scrolling your feed. And you want to pay attention to 3 things. 1, what made you stop? Okay. So as we scroll through the feed, there's always another video. So if I don't like what you're saying, or you don't catch me, I just flip, and I know there's another video. No box to check out of, no X, I just swipe. Okay. So what made you stop? And try to pay attention to the element. Was it what they said? Was it what was on screen? Was there movement? And jot that down. Okay. Secondarily, you want to look at the text on screen, or what the captions are saying of what that person said in the first few moments, okay? Going back to storytelling, this sets the stage. The first thing you see or say in a video gives somebody the context to make a snap decision of whether or not they're going to watch the rest of your content, okay? So I have the sound off, and I see somebody pop up and they go, these are the dumbest Shark Tank inventions, okay? That's the context. Okay. Now I know what Shark Tank is, and you probably do too. So I already understand what's going on. And there's an element of cheekiness. Oh, the dumbest inventions. Oh, this will be good, right? This will entertain me. And then I can make a decision whether I want to watch that video. So all I'm doing is noting down the dumbest inventions on Shark Tank. Okay. Well, I could take that, and I could find content around Shark Tank stuff that relates to my industry, or I could massage that and say the dumbest inventions in podcasting. Okay. And maybe there's some things, some failed products that I could show people, right? And I could attach myself to that. The third thing you're looking for is just the format that the video is. So there are basically 5 formats that people like to watch. It's person talking on screen, storytelling content, which is more of a POV, what's happening scenario. Anytime you show somebody something on a computer screen, they just love it. People just love websites. Okay. There's skits. There's a bunch of different formats, but pay attention to what the format is, because when you get sucked in watching other people's content, there's a few things that happen. One, you're going to start comparing yourself. You're just going to start. That's what we do as human beings. Oh, this video looks so much better than mine, or they're getting more views and I'm talking about the same thing. But, we start comparing. So by looking through the content, all we're looking for is the keyword that got people in and the format that they like to consume it in. And then we go take that information and we make that our own. Okay. We make that our own. So, me and you could probably think of 5 or 6 different podcast topics and have completely different tips on how to do that, right? Yeah. Because we have different expertise and background, which is good, okay? Take your expertise and your opinions to that content, but just understanding that you're giving it to them in the context and the packaging that they've shown that they like. And if you do this with your content research, you will spend less time doom scrolling and more time doing strategic research to start testing on your account. So, just to recap, set a timer, doom scroll away, have fun, set a timer, look through the content, and note down the indicators that you can bring to your next piece of content.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. And so what about, I wrote something down as you were sharing that. Let me look at so I was thinking about how sometimes I'm looking through and strategizing as I'm scrolling, and I notice, man, some of these videos just blew up, went so viral, and like the video quality is crap.
Yep.
Right. And yet I feel like as a creator, I've got to have the best quality camera. Everything's got to look great. So what are your thoughts on that? Does a creator have to really have either the best equipment or the highest quality of equipment to really go viral?
Right. So my personal thought is, and this is somebody who has a $5,000 camera that I used to use for my content, in a world of like trust, people resonate more with like that sort of phone-based camera because it's the phone that they film themselves on. And so what I will say is that it is awesome to have a produced video, right? And it's awesome to put effort into your content, and I'm all for that. However, if the topic is something that people don't care about, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. So, for the most part, everybody has that phone, and that is the camera in the phone is amazing. So if you're waiting to do something because you need better equipment, stop waiting and just use your phone. If you have equipment, learn how to use it to the best of your ability. But I do think there is a shift in sort of like, it depends on the platform. Instagram is sort of half and half. It's like that authentic content and a little bit of polish. TikTok is like no polish. They just want it raw. It's somebody jumping into the conversation. Just like that's why you see a lot of people in their cars. It's because it's like we all sit in our cars and we have our phones.
Yeah.
YouTube, you would probably want a little more production element to that because it is known for that. Facebook Reels, I have no idea. Like just whatever goes. But don't let this is what I believe. The topic is more important than the production. Okay. And if you are talking about things that millions of people care about or attaching yourself to something that millions of people care about, you are more likely to get views because it's attention based, not filmmaking based. And if you have that God-given filmmaking ability, then do that. And that's part of your personal brand. If you do not worry about it. Really focus on talking about things that people care about. Now, the example I'll use for you with this is you have a patient. And the patient goes to the doctor and says, my tummy hurts, okay? And the doctor says, oh, well, that'll be ischemia of the lower intestine due to low blood supply. And the patient looks at the doctor and says, am I gonna die? And the doctor says, no, we're going to prescribe you this medicine, right? What experts usually do is they talk like a doctor. They start using acronyms and they start using high-level words and they start confusing everybody. You need to talk like a patient. The patient can't get your diagnosis until they come in with that initial my tummy hurts, right? So as an example, our job is to get people in the room by talking like a patient, right? So for example, a podcaster, what do they want? Well, they want more downloads. Okay. Why do they want that? So that they could potentially make money, right? So, if the podcaster isn't getting any downloads, I need to open up the video by saying like, here's why you're only getting 100 downloads a month, right? Because I'm going to try to hit the number. I'm going to try to tap in, right? Or, something around that pain that they're feeling. And then I can unfold the things that we need to do from a diagnosis standpoint to cure their pain. But we need to open that video up and sound like a patient. And I hope that makes sense it's a language issue. Mm-hmm. Like, you're an expert and you want to sound smart. Well, we already know you're smart. People are dumb. And I'm dumb. I'm one of the dummies. I'm the king of the dummies, right? We need somebody to what I call Neil deGrasse Tyson this shit, where Neil deGrasse Tyson is a award-winning astrophysicist who's the only reason we know him is because he's able to take really complex things and make them simple for dummies like me to understand. Mm-hmm. If you can Neil deGrasse Tyson your expertise, you absolutely will win.
I love that. And, as you were sharing, it made me think about how I've always been impressed with your hooks, the way that you write hooks, the way you deliver your hooks, etc. And I remember your hooks used to be, you and I both used to be those guys saying 3 tips to this and that, doing all the things. And you mentioned earlier that doesn't work very well anymore. People are getting fatigued by it. So what advice do you have for people that are struggling to craft a good hook for their videos?
Yeah, the hook is it's important because as fast as content is, we really have like seconds to qualify somebody. I do think the best way to do it is to show, not tell. And so that's my whole thing right now is show, not tell. Meaning, I'm not going to tell you how to turn $0 into $1,000. I'm just like, I'm going to try to do this, right? So I'm showing you how I'm doing it as opposed to telling you how to do it. And so if you take that into consideration, it's, from a hook standpoint, I would need a topic to kind of extrapolate on that. Let's say it's a relationship account, right? Like, a perfect hook for that would be, things I didn't expect after divorce. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that I'm divorced and that my relationship has failed, and what a divorce is because it's a big word, a big keyword. Things I didn't expect after divorce sets the stage of like, oh, what is it that he didn't expect? If I'm divorced or not, I still kind of want to know what the other side looks like. And then I would share my personal experience of like, I didn't expect to, I don't know, cook all my own meals because my wife was doing, I would need to use some emotion in there, but that would be the way that I would roll that out. Instead of saying like, here's 3 things that you need to know about divorce, right? I'm flipping that to like showing them what it's like on my side. Is that a decent example?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I'm just sitting here thinking, then the next step to that really is thinking about, well, what are those 3 things that do strike that emotional chord for people? Because I was going in through my head as you were explaining, just to come up with an example for myself. If I were to say 3 things I learned about podcasting, that 3 things I didn't expect to learn about podcasting, and then I start judging quickly as to what those 3 things are, right? Like if I started talking about, say, the great connections I've made through it, I don't know if my audience cares or not about that. I feel like, to me, it's like, well, all my audience cares about is grow, money, right? I don't care about those connections, right?
I think they do in some capacity. Like, this is the way I would think about it, right? It's like, if I can have the 3 things I learned from podcasting be something that everyone wants. So like, as an adult, it is hard to make friends, okay? But I'd be willing to bet that you're the same as me, is right now, most of my close friends are all through the internet. Right. Like none of them live in my neighborhood or my town. And I have all these people that I know and love, but they're nowhere near me. Right. Mm-hmm. So that friendship angle is something that we all sort of lack in 2024. So that's emotion. And I would say that, yeah, like, I never expected these 3 things from podcasting. 1, that I would make these lifelong friends that I never knew existed that didn't live in my world. And now I'm hosting live events where they fly all over in to see me, right? Or, that I would actually be able to make money by just talking, like, oh, if I could walk up to 10 people and say, what if I told you you can make money if you just talk for an hour a week? They'd be like, I want that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to kind of think in the terms of like what people desire and then presenting them with that. The podcast is just the vessel that gets them that.
Yeah.
And chances are, everybody, if you have a niche or an industry, I want you to think about your niche is actually not what you are. It is a vessel to get people to what they want. And in reality, people only want three things. They want health, wealth, and love. They want to make money, they want to live forever, and they want somebody to love them. I don't care if it's a dog, a kid, a spouse. And if you can sort of put those into a bucket and have your vessel bring them to that bucket, that's where you start to win, right? So, maybe podcasting, maybe something I didn't expect from listening to podcasts is that I actually got super healthy. I started listening to this health podcast and I started implementing all the things, right? I want to be healthy. We all want to be healthy. And so that's kind of the way that you would massage that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk. I want to get into Social Boom as well. And we're running out of time. So tell me a little bit more about Social Boom. I've been a member of Social Boom and it's been a minute since I've been a part of it. So I'm curious to hear how it's changed and really what can somebody from the Minvo community expect if they were thinking about joining Social Boom?
Absolutely. So check this out. It's good that you're not really a member of Social Boom anymore because hopefully we made an impact on you and we helped you get where you needed to go.
Hey, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be doing this. Yeah.
The idea of what we do as coaches is to teach people how to do something without us. That's a good coach. I don't want to keep you on the treadmill forever. I want you to succeed, right? Mm-hmm. So if the Minvo community is watching, Minvo looks like an amazing tool to be cutting up long form content into short form clips. Okay. Mm-hmm. What I would say is where Social Boom comes in handy, and Social Boom is socialboom.com. It is $7 a month, and it is our system that we use. What I've sort of depicted today, which was reverse engineering attention and testing different content, $7 a month. And we're going to show you exactly that system, which does not rely on any trending audio or hashtags or any of the BS that you think you need to grow on social media. And what it's going to do for you is it's going to teach you how to pre-purpose the viral moment in your long form content. Okay. So whether you're just doing short form content for your business or your podcast, it is going to teach you how to find the ideas where the attention is. Like I just described when I was telling you how to look at content, that is basically what we do at Social Boom, how we research content. So it is a 3-step system for people to be able to use expert content to grow massive audiences on social media. Why do we want a massive audience? Because it's followers, it's leads with intent that we can then bring to the next level with us. So for people with the Minvo community, it's going to be way easier to have that pre-purposed viral moment to clip out that you're actually going to get views on by preparing the viral moment. And this is something I always tell podcasters. Talking for 60 minutes and sifting through it to try to figure out what the golden nugget is a losing proposition. It is your time, it is effort, and it's unnecessary. If you go into your podcast with some ideas of what you already know people are talking about and you talk about those topics on the podcast, then all you need to do is go clip those out and post those on social media. And you're more likely to get people to watch that video and then go to the next level. So I surmise that if you use this system, which is a no feature based system. It leverages attention, which is the number one skill you need to have in order to crack through in 2024. That your Minvo clips are going to be way better because everything is going to be pre-purposed to win. And now you're saving time from sifting through your podcast, preparing a bunch of stuff that you don't know works, and then actually getting your content. And I'm not going to lie, people don't wake up and check a podcast app. So your number one opportunity in podcasting is to get on the highway, which is social media, to get people over to that long form content. Your life just gets amazing because you stop guessing what's going to work. And my goal is to help experts reach massive audiences, stop guessing, and make their social media life easier, their podcasts better, their YouTube videos better by learning just this one skill of proving that there is attention around a topic and talking about it. And if there is not proof around it, we don't make the video because it's like doing it for no reason. But taking your ideas and cross-referencing them to attention is a game-changing proposition for all creators and marketers.
Cool. All right. So would you be open to sharing with us one big success story that's come out of Social Boom and why you think it was so successful? And then maybe a failure, like what happened? Somebody tried it and for some reason it didn't, they thought it wasn't working and they gave up. Whatever that looks like, I'm curious if you would share a big failure and a success.
Absolutely. So we have hundreds of case studies of people in all different niches who have used our system. So our system is not niche specific. It is attention specific. One of the greatest stories I have is Tammy. Her account is @marriednaked, and she has a podcast or had a podcast about relationships, about marriage. And we met her and she was like completely failing on social media. She had no clients. She had no listeners. And she came to us and she literally said, like, this is my last stop. Like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to quit, which is not what we want to hear. Now, Tammy was mid-40s, not tech savvy. And so we started using our system with her. And she started at about 1,500 followers. Immediately saw some big spikes. She couldn't get out of 1,000 views. Immediately started seeing 12, 13, 14K views, right? We continued to test until we found one of her signature formats, which was a B-roll of two people eating, okay? And the reason that video was such a success is because if you are in a bad marriage, you could pretty much avoid your spouse all day long, except when it comes time to dinner time. Then you kind of have to face up and sit there. But what do you talk about? So she was giving conversation prompts. Sound familiar? Conversation prompts for people to talk at dinner, and it blew up. I mean, 66 million views on one of these videos.
Wow.
Okay. So as we started talking about things that were emotional and people cared about, all of the views grew, which showed her to non-followers. Her account grew from about 1,500 to 160,000 in 90 days. Okay. So she now knows exactly what to talk about and exactly what to post. On the other side of that, her podcast is now getting 5-figure downloads every month. She has sponsors on the podcast. She has a full coaching roster with a wait list. And I encouraged her to launch an e-commerce business where she put her questions on decks of cards to gamify date night, which is crushing right now. So she went from $0, 0 followers, 0 downloads, super frustrated, to now having a thriving business. Her content is not polished. Her content is not hard to make, but she wasn't tapping into the things that people cared about in marriage. She was guessing what they wanted to know. And that was the big flip. So that's just one of 100 people who started reverse engineering attention to get out into the zeitgeist. The people who fail, and there are students that fail in any coaching program. The reason that they fail is, one, they resist everything. So they resist talking about topics that people care about because they think that they need to be different, that they need to be creative and create something new every day. And so what they do is they create chaos for their followers, okay? Could you imagine subscribing to a podcast where it's like, oh, this is a sports podcast, but every single time they drop an episode, it's about something completely different, like the Great Pyramids and clowns. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought this was a sports podcast. You would unsubscribe from that podcast. Yeah. It's chaos, right? So the people that don't win, they cannot get over the fact that they are not different, that they aren't going to be different, and that by being different, they're actually hampering their abilities, okay? There's 5 topics and 5 formats that people really care about, okay? Nothing is new. Nothing I've talked about is new. Nothing you've talked about is new. There are no new ideas. So inevitably, there will be something that you are talking about that somebody else is talking about. That's just the way the world works. So the people that don't win are chronically confusing creativity with being different. And so I encourage people to be creative in their content, but not to the point where every day it's something new. And this is something I specifically struggled with. I tried to make something new every day. I'm an artist, a musician, I have ADHD, I'm a mess. But when I realized that people actually want predictability, meaning knowing what they're going to get out of you every day, that's when you start winning, okay? So the example I'll use here is, what do we see when we go to ESPN? Sports. What do we see when we go to National Geographic? Lions, tigers, and bears. If you saw sports on National Geographic, you would think there was something wrong with your TV. So the people that don't win don't realize that they need to create a predictability in what's to come, and that's how we grow massive audiences. If you look up a gentleman named Jeffrey Scott Tatum, his handle is You Can Outdoors. Every video is exactly the same. It's the same side of his face. He is outside and he says, friendly reminder. And then he says some mind-blowing mindset process. Once that worked for him, once friendly reminder worked, he didn't do anything else. He went all in on it, and he has almost 1 million followers on every single platform, okay? Do you think Jeffrey Scott Tatum likes saying the same thing every day? Probably not. I mean, it's probably stale at this point. But he knows that it works, and it's predictable, and it's why people will stay. So I encourage people to start testing different formats to see what the love language is that people like to consume you, and do more of that. Instead of just guessing and doing stuff that doesn't work over and over again, look back at your account right now. Whatever the #1 video you have is, try doing that again and see what happens. And you will see a massive difference, because there are no new ideas. Your creativity comes out through the way that you present yourself, not in doing something different. And that something that I've really learned this year is the things you resist the most are the things you need to do the most. Okay.
Yes, I'm with you there.
So I resisted quitting drinking. It was the thing I needed to do the most. If I see something where I'm like, like reels, I'm like, I'm never doing that. I was resisting it, and it was what I needed to do the most. Look at your resistance as an indicator of something that's happening internally, and see if you can overcome that, and your life will change in many, many different ways.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. All right, so here's what I want to do, Travis. I got one more question for you, and I'm going to take a page out of your book. Okay. I'm going to draw a winner for a contest that
Sweet.
Minvo did. Minvo's giving away a lifetime membership to their product, and we collected all these names, mostly at Podcast Movement last week when I was there. And we've got video. We'll share all that. But I wanted to pull the winner now.
Hey, before you do that, can we do one thing?
Yeah.
Let's add in a year of Social Boom on top of that, right? So that they can. Yeah. And then
that sounds awesome.
Minvo, thank you for being so generous with your amazing software. That is epic. That's super cool.
I love it. All right. So does this look familiar to you?
Oh, the Wheel of Names. I love the Wheel of Names.
So I'm going to spin this wheel and see who the winner is.
Oh, is it going to be? I love the Wheel of Names.
All right, Trevor Cully. So congratulations to Trevor. Trevor's won a lifetime subscription to Minvo and Social Boom. What are the details there?
I'm going to give him a year subscription so we can help him grow. Yeah. So just send me his info and I'll reach out to him and get him set up.
I will do that. Trevor Cully, congratulations. You got a 2-fer there. And we're going to do these lifetime memberships more often. Amazing. For people who want to participate in the live stream. They'll sign up to attend, and we'll have these wheels and spin and see who wins. And we'll do that like once a month. So that's coming soon. And Travis, thank you again. One piece of advice to leave our audience with, and let's say they're feeling burnt out with their content. They're just not feeling it. What kind of advice would you have to keep them going?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a perfect answer for this. But before I do that, I just want everybody watching to know how much effort Mark puts into this show, how hard he works for his community. And the #1 thing that you could do if you're enjoying what he's doing is simply leaving a review or liking or subscribing to this content. Hit that like button if it's on YouTube. Leave him a review somewhere, comment on some of his posts. Like, you don't know how much work goes into wrangling people together to do this, working with a company like Minvo to provide you this opportunity. So just take 1 minute to do that. It's the golden rule of the internet. If you're enjoying this, just show a little love. If you are feeling burnt out, this is my advice. Yes, of course. Thank you for doing all this. My #1 advice for people who are burning out: you will burn out. at some point, because there is so many things that you need to do as a business owner with marketing. My number one advice is when things aren't adding up, start subtracting. Okay. And by subtracting, I mean, make a list of the things you love to do and the things that you hate to do, and stop doing the things you hate to do, or hire somebody to do them for you. Okay. When things aren't adding up, start subtracting. If you're trying to post on every single platform and do all the things, just pause some of them for now and really get intentional with the things that you like doing. So I spent, 2 years, more than that, 3 years now, growing my Instagram account. I put all my eggs in that basket. I did not grow a YouTube channel. I did not grow a TikTok. I did not grow a podcast. I did not grow these other things, because I knew that by trying to do all the things, I would inevitably hate myself and hate doing the things. So when things stop adding up, start subtracting. And if you are burnt out right now, make a list of all the things you're doing, cut it in half, pause some of the things, and focus all your energy on the things that you like doing to recalibrate, get back on the horse, get your energy high. And then when you are comfortable, you can start to incorporate those other things back in if you wish. But when things stop adding up, start subtracting is the best advice I've ever received from a therapist. Not about burnout, but is directly applicable to the feeling of burnout and trying to keep everything going all at once.
I love that. I think that's so important, because there are so many things thrown at us as content creators, and a lot of us just tend to take them all at once and try to do all of them at once, and it never works out.
Yeah, insurmountable. I want to give you a digital high five here. Can we do a digital high five? All right, nice.
There it was. Nice.
Thank
nice.
You, Mark. Thank you so much.
Travis, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been nice to catch up with you. We honestly haven't really caught up until this very call, so it's nice to do it. However we do it, it's great with me. Socialboom.com, and also you can find Travis on social media at Travis Brown, correct?
That's correct.
All right, cool. Well, thank you again, Travis, and hopefully you'll come back. We'll do this again sometime.
Cheers.
See ya. Cool.